Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, October 11th edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast. David Morassutti with Mike DiStefano. On today's show, we're going to continue Monday's podcast where we're going to be giving our season predictions. Yes, technically the NHL regular season started with those games overseas, but everybody else is going to be starting on Wednesday. So Mike and I want to make sure we got our predictions in before puck drop. We're going to go over everything from Stanley Cup predictions. Who's going to make it? Who's going to win it? Division winners. And Mike and I are also going to give our bold predictions for the season. You're not going to want to miss it today on Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. We're your hosts here on the show. Just a reminder that if you're new with us here at Locked On Leafs, if it's your first time listening to us, we appreciate taking the time. But we do daily shows Monday to Friday all season long. You can find us wherever you get your podcast and also up on YouTube. So make sure that you're subscribing, getting that content each and every day, all Leafs all the time. Sometimes we break away from the Maple Leafs, though, David. And since the season officially is underway and it starts on, I guess technically today, if most people are listening to this on Tuesday, we're recording this Monday night. So we're going to do our season-wide predictions. All right. Season-wide predictions. So we're going to go through our division winners. We're going to go through who we think will win the President's Trophy, our Stanley Cup matchup. And we've got a bold prediction for this season. Dave, why don't you go first? You let me know who you believe are going to be the division winners in the NHL this season.
Yeah. So my division winners, I have the New York Rangers winning the Metro, just beating out the Carolina Hurricanes. I think that's going to be a big battle going into this season. I think both teams are pretty loaded top to bottom. Got the Leafs winning the Atlantic Division. We talked about their over. No, I think Florida takes a step back. Tampa, there'll be a battle there with Tampa. I have the Nashville Predators winning the Central.
Ooh.
I like the Predators. I think they got the goaltending. I think they're just gonna beat out Colorado because I think Colorado, their goaltending, I'm not sold on it. But
Yeah.
and
They
they've
have Georgiev in net now, right?
Georgiev and Francouz, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I know Kemper wasn't great in the playoffs, but he was really good in the regular season. And
Yeah.
he played a good chunk of games.
Plus no Kadri.
No Kadri as well. I think Newhook is going to be their second line center. So I
Maybe
think
Rodriguez, but yeah.
or even that's not much better, unfortunately.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
So I think Nashville. I mean, look, they've already got off to a good start, 2-0 to start the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the Predators a lot this year. I thought I think if Saros stays healthy, they'll be really good. Pacific, I'm gonna go with the Calgary Flames. I just think Jonathan Huberdeau, he looked really good in preseason. I think Mackenzie Weegar is going to be a nice addition on that blue line going up against, I think the Oilers are going to be right behind them. I think it's going to be a fight between those two, which I think a lot of Flame fans and Oilers fans will enjoy. So that's what I have as my division predictions.
So we are agreeing on 50% of them. So I also agree that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to come out victorious, win the division, and be the number one seed, which hopefully gives them a much better advantage than in years past when it comes to their, who they have to play in round one. And let's hope that this is the year, pal. Let's hope that this is the year they get through it. But I do have them as the top team in the Atlantic through the regular season. As for the Metro, I have the Hurricanes winning the Metro. So, you did say that's going to be close, and I agree with you. I went back and forth over New York and Carolina, and I like Carolina as just a little bit more, just a little more. I think that they're a little deeper. Like, that's just an unbelievable blue line. They added Brent Burns, which is going to kind of add some offense to that blue line as well. I think Svechnikov's going to have himself a big year. Sebastian Aho, they went and they picked up, who else they pick up?
Paul
Well,
Stastny.
they picked up Paul Stastny to kind of round out some depth down deeper into the lineup. They also have technically Max
Pacioretty.
Pacioretty. He's going to be injured to start the year, but that'll be a nice addition midway through the season. Add a little bit more of a punch. I just like what they've done, and Freddie Anderson knows how to play games in the regular season. Whether or not it works out in the playoffs remains to be seen. But he can win you some games in the regular season. So I got the Hurricanes win the Metro. I'm with you on the Flames win the Pacific Division. I think that what they've been able to accomplish this offseason, the really quick on the fly overhaul of their team, makes them stronger. This is a stronger team in my mind. Adding Huberdeau, Uyghur, and Kadri, I think is just a better trio than Goudreau and Goudreau, Kachuk, and Goodbranson, I guess, would be the other guy who left. And yeah, Uyghur's a much better improvement on Eric Goodbranson. So I like the Flames. They got the goalie as well. They're incredibly deep up front and on the blue line. I've got them as my Pacific winners. And I actually have the Minnesota Wild winning the Central
Ooh.
Division. The Minnesota Wild, Marc-Andre Fleury, kind of turn the clock back a little bit, get some victories, end up winning a bunch of games. But I think Kaprizov's going to have himself a hell of a season, man. Like, this kid is so good. Matthew Boldy, who's a rookie last year, he was unbelievable. I think that he's going to have quite the sophomore campaign. Joel Eriksson, a terrific player. Ryan Hartman started coming into his own last year. And they've got a really solid blue line back there as well. So they're another team that top to bottom, deep, well-rounded, physical team. Like Marcus Foligno's an absolute ox, someone who I wanted on Toronto for a while, still would take him on the Maple Leafs as like a third or fourth line winger. But I think the Wild get it done. It's funny, we're both of us shading the reigning Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche.
The Central's going to be a tough division. I think that's what's going to make it harder for Colorado too.
Mm.
Like the Wild are better.
Well, Dallas is going to be in the conversation. I mean, they'll be a competitive team.
There'll be a competitive team. I think the Preds are going to remain competitive. There might be a bit. I think they're going to be a competitive team again. Like I think Colorado's going to have a tough year just because competition in the West did get tougher.
Yeah,
It's just like they kind of ran rough shop in the West. I don't think that's going to happen this year.
and what kind of hangover are they going to have too?
Oh yeah,
And there's
more
just just a lot of turnover on that team. Lots of turnover.
yeah.
And Kadri was a pretty big piece to that team, who's no longer with the club. So yeah, interestingly, we both don't have Colorado winning. I've got the Wild, you've got the Preds. We both had the Flames and Leafs winning their divisions. You've got the Rangers winning the Metro. I've got the Hurricanes winning the Metro.
All right, everyone, we're going to continue with our NHL season predictions, and you'll want to stick around for quite a few more that Mike and I will be dropping. But we have to take a quick break so we can talk about one of our show sponsors, and that's one of our favorites, in Built Bar. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right, Built has done it again. All the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's actually healthy for you. As you know, all of Built Bar Puffs are roughly 160 calories, and with the cookie dough chunk puffs, they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. So run to Built.com to snag a box for you and your family. It will be the perfect treat. Or you can find a really good hiding place and just order them for yourself. Whatever floats your boat. We don't judge. What's great about Build is that all of their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff, whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just need to grab a quick bite. Built is the perfect protein bar. They taste better than a candy bar. Dish the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. And if you need a little extra incentive, go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. So that's promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at Built.com. Leafs.com.
As for the President's Trophy, though, David, for who finishes this season, the regular season, with the most points in the National Hockey League, David Morassutti believes it will be
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, this guy's calling his shot. Explain yourself.
I just think that, first off, Colorado won it last year. They're definitely not winning it. I think it's going to be between the Leafs and the Flames. That's going to be the
Colorado
battle.
didn't win last year. Florida.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Why did I
They're
think?
also not winning it this year, though.
Well, and Florida's not winning it, but Colorado was close. They weren't that
Yeah,
far
they
off.
were second, I believe.
That's right. I just think I think the Leafs are better. I think they're gonna treat this regular season a lot different this year. In my opinion, they should be. They should be trying their best to make it known that we're gonna be the best team during the regular season. Get that division spot. Make life make life easier, but just don't let teams sleep on the Leafs. Really, they're gonna think that we can come in here, throw the Leafs off the game. The Leafs, I think, are realizing that they were too easy to play against at times last year. Sheldon Keefe during training camp was way more intense during some of the practices, where he basically stopped practice and says, like, you guys are not being physical enough. You're not doing enough. He was pushing them hard. I think Willie was saying, like, they're skating a lot more than they've ever really done. They are really pushing this year, I think. So I think the Flames are going to be the biggest contender for the President's Trophy out in the West. I just think the Leafs, they're going to treat this regular season a lot different than they have in the past.
I also have the Maple Leafs win the President's Trophy.
Same
I
reason?
do. I do. And, like, sure, you could call us biased for being locked on Leafs. And are we, playing to the crowd? Perhaps. But
I don't think
honestly,
our audience would agree with us if we listen to the YouTube comments.
yeah, that's true. They think we're idiots, but sometimes we are idiots, Dave. Sometimes we are
Yes.
idiots.
We're a bunch of Italian idiots. What do you want?
That's what we are, right? And this could be an idiotic take, but, like, when I look at last year's team that had 115 points, this team's better. I believe that this squad is better. They're deeper up front. They're deeper on the blue line. And when you look at the goaltending that the Maple Leafs got from December even onward, this was sub 900 goaltending. From January onward, Jack Campbell was an 886 goalie.
Mm-hmm.
They got 887 goaltending from January onward. It was disgusting. And they still went on to have the greatest year in Maple Leafs history, statistically.
Yes.
So, do I think that this team can better that? I do. I absolutely do. And I think they can pick up wins against teams that, like, from what happened last year to this year, if what you're saying is correct, where they'll take this year a little bit more seriously, it'll be an all business type of year, they should be able to play. They shouldn't be playing down to opponents anymore.
No.
And the amount of losses and points they left off the table by playing down to their opponents, losing valuable points to teams that were under 500 was embarrassing, despicable. If this team truly has learned its lesson from that and believes, hey, we need to win this division, and in order to win this division, we clearly are going to need to also win those games against the crap teams. So we need to play our game each and every night and have them play our game. We can't play down to our opponents anymore. Call me naive for thinking that, through the regular season, or through the preseason, rather. I know it's only preseason, but they haven't played down to their opponent. They've mopped the floor with their crappy opponents, Montreal, Ottawa, and Detroit. Completely mopped the floor with them all. So I think you could look at that and say the mentality might be a little different. Sure, some of those guys were fighting for jobs. Some of them weren't even NHLers, and they weren't playing against NHLers. But I just have this feeling that there's a different mentality with this group this year. Based on what I'm hearing out of them with the media, seems as though things are different. Seeing William Nylander engaged in preseason games is different. So I believe that the Maple Leafs are going to have a better year than they did a season ago, which to me could equate a President's Trophy in their future.
Like you were mentioning teams that they should have beaten that they lost to.
Dude, they got swept by Arizona last
Yeah,
year.
1 out of 4 points against Arizona. They got 2 out of 8 points against the Buffalo Sabres. They got 0 out of a potential 4 points against the Vancouver Canucks. Let's see, who else can I put into this conversation? They got 2 out of 4 points against the Los Angeles Kings. Why? Like, the Leafs should beat the Kings. Like, how many points did I rally off right there?
Well,
Those
Ottawa. Go to Ottawa. I guarantee you they were
Ottawa, they
at
were a
best.
little bit better against Ottawa. They got 6 out of 8 against Ottawa.
Okay, so just over 500. So they went, what, 3-1? I
And
guess
then they
against
got 2
the
out of 6 points against the Penguins. I would
yeah,
expect
and
that.
and one of those losses came to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton team early in the
Oh,
year.
yeah.
Remember that?
Oh,
Oh god, that was
it's
such
a
a
game
brutal
like
loss.
that. A game like that, I should not expect to see the Leafs play this year. You
No,
might have a couple of stinkers. It's gonna happen, but a game like that should not happen this year.
dude, we're gonna get into this on tomorrow's episode when we tee up the season opener against Montreal Canadiens. But if you go ahead and you go to Daily Faceoff, go look at what that blue line looks like right now for the Montreal Canadiens. If they don't score 5-6 goals on Wednesday, to me, it's an utter failure because they should absolutely fill the net. Absolutely fill the net against that team. But in years past, those have been trap games and they fell for the trap. If this truly is a different team, maybe they won't fall for it and they can get themselves some valuable points, play up to their opponents that they're supposed to, the guys in their stratosphere, the Colorados, the Calgarys, the Tampas, the Bostons of the world, and end up with a President's Trophy win, which, again, would give them home ice advantage if they did make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Final, would also give themselves a little advantage there with home ice. Speaking of the Stanley Cup Final, David, who do you have as your cup final? Who's the winner out of the West? Who's coming out of the East? And then give me your ultimate Stanley Cup champion.
Okay, so I have it as the Rangers and the Flames as my cup final. The reason why I'm not picking the Leafs is out of 2 things. One, I don't want to pick the Leafs out of jinx, and they need a win around before I can predict them to even be in a cup final. That's
Fair,
gonna be my mantra going forward.
fair.
I just think the Rangers, I think with Shesterkin, if you got the goaltending, and I think, and in my bold prediction, I'm going to also explain why I think the Rangers will take the next step to get to the cup final. I think it's going to be them. I think it's going to be Calgary. Calgary just screams like a team that everyone was underestimating after they lost Gaudreau and Kachuk, and they're going to ride that thing as long as they can, and they're going to ride all the way to the Stanley Cup final. I think if they didn't lose to the Oilers, they would definitely have given Colorado a good run for their money to make it to the Cup final last year. They didn't play the most inspiring hockey, but they played tough playoff hockey. And so I think, but I'm gonna go with the Rangers to win it.
So you got the Rangers coming out of the East, beating the Flames, becoming the Stanley Cup champions.
I do.
David, I believe for the first time in 30 years, we're going to have a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup.
No, I'm worried now.
For the first time in 30 years. Because I too have the Calgary Flames coming out of the West.
Okay.
And the Toronto Maple Leafs coming out of the East. And buddy, get ready. We're partying on Yonge Street come June, pal. I got the Toronto Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. I'm telling you, this is the year. Everything is working out the way that the Leafs wanted it to. I think this is the deepest team that they've been able to put forward. I think Tampa, look, they're a terrific playoff team. At some point, you got to think all these long, deep runs, it's going to catch up to them. So if the Maple Leafs, this is also an if, can get through round one, and if they can get over the Tampa Bay Lightning, that hump, which they'll probably have to play in round two, most likely, I can see them beating any team in the Metro, whoever comes out of it, even if it is the New York Rangers. The Leafs played the Rangers really well last year. Like, I think they can honestly defeat them. And when it comes to playing them and the Flames, it's a 50-50 shot. But if I got the Leafs win the President's Trophy, they got home ice advantage. I'll give them the home ice tilt, and the Maple Leafs will be victorious and be raising Lord Stanley in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Austin Matthews with the game winner in overtime. That's
So
what's
you're
going to happen.
telling me I went through all that to not potentially jinx the Leafs, only to have you potentially jinx the Leafs?
Well, now you jinx them by not having them go far.
I will also say this about Tampa. Losing Andre Palat, I don't think many people are talking about that.
And Ryan McDonough.
Ryan McDonough, uh, Philip Myers, who they brought in on that trade for Ryan McDonough, was placed on waivers. And
Yeah, that may have been more of a paper transaction to
yeah,
get like cap compliant, and then LTIR, they'll be able to call him back up. But that was weird because remember I talked about the Maple Leafs being creative, trading for him, and you could actually, if you bought him out this year,
he would have made money.
you made cap space by buying him out. Literally would have made cap space, and I thought it was genius of the Lightning to do that, and then they kept him. And now it's a curious move because now they've got him. I think he's making over $2 million, like $2.5 million. And it's like, this guy's barely an NHLer. It's a curious move there.
And Anthony
But
Cirelli is not starting the season with them. I mean, that's a big loss for them.
that is definitely a big loss for them. Is Brain Point's healthy, right? From his
From what I saw,
injury?
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he's good to go. So yeah, I think it's hopefully I didn't jinx him, Dave. Hopefully I didn't jinx him, but it's locked on. It's locked
I
on
will
Leafs.
be happy to be wrong, let's just say.
It's locked on Leafs. We got to give some love to our boys in blue. All right, what is your bold prediction? League wide bold prediction, Dave.
So I saw this percolating on a couple of spots, and I kind of jumped on this bandwagon. I know we had talked about the Leafs being a Patrick Kane trade destination,
Uh
but
huh.
the reason why I had the Rangers going all the way is I think they're going to be the ones who land Patty Kane at the trade deadline.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Man, that is a great bold prediction.
They
That
got
is a
2
great.
first round picks.
Yeah.
Theirs and now the Stars with that trade that they
Oh
made,
yeah, Lundqvist.
and I think they got decent prospects. And I think that like that's a team Patty Kane will love to go to.
Oh yeah, going to the Big Apple. Like, I mean, the guy's an
Reuniting with
American going
Artemi
for America's
Panarin,
team. What's that?
reuniting with his boy Artemi Panarin, who he did not want to see leave Chicago.
That's right. That's right, dude. I like that a lot. Oh man, that if he doesn't come to Toronto, that's got to happen.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
got to happen.
it
Got
has.
to happen. Which I don't expect him to come to Toronto.
If
So
if Chicago robs us of that opportunity, then they should not be allowed to get the first overall pick.
yeah, agreed.
No matter
Agreed. I
how bad.
like that. That's a good prediction. Good prediction. I think Connor McDavid's going to score 150 points this year.
Ooh,
150 points. He had 123 last year. So can he get 27 more points? I believe he can, because the tear that guy went on in the playoffs and early in the year. I mean, there was a point in the season, I think it was about 30 games or so in, where he was on pace for 150 points. It was insane. And then he kind of hit a bit of a spill. But now insert Evander Kane into the mix, Dylan Holloway into the mix,
yeah.
right? Like he now has players to play off of that can help him like finish off some of those assists that he like. Imagine how many more assists he would have if he had guys who could finish. Like the guy will score as many goals as he can, and he tries to set you up because he'll suck in all these defenders, and then he gets wide open Zach Cassian on the other side of the ice, but Zach Cassian can't bury and finish. Now you've got Evander Kane. How many more assists is this guy going to pile up? And
Yeah.
I think this is a year too where McDavid, like, he could score 50 goals this year. Like
You
this is
said
this is a season where I think this guy's going to take over the league. 50 goals, 150 points, massive year out of Connor McDavid.
Can I read you something quickly that Connor McDavid said back in September. Okay, he talked with Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick on the 32 Thought podcast.
Gotcha.
Scoring goals is the hardest thing to do in this league, so it's a pretty good thing to focus on. Definitely can be a little more selfish. And who was he studying this offseason to get there? Austin Matthews.
Oh, those guys skate together in Arizona in the summers. We know that Austin has taken a couple of pages out of Connor's book, and I think it's only fitting that Connor takes a page out of Matthews' goal scoring prowess book as well. I mean, those are the two best players in the NHL at this moment in time. 1 and 2. Easy. Easy peasy.
It's kind of the new Crosby Ovechkin rivalry in terms of Ovechkin's the goal scorer, Crosby is just the points, and
you know what it's more? You know what it's more like? Honestly, it's more like Gretzky Lemieux.
That's not a bad one either.
It's more like a Gretzky Lemieux than it is a Crosby Ovechkin. Just because like OV is a winger, you know, how high can you put wingers? But like in terms of being a marquee, like this guy versus this guy, yes, I understand that. But in terms of, what it was like, Gretzky Lemieux, that's kind of like, McDavid, Matthews. Like McDavid's known as the best guy in the NHL, but Matthews to me is the best all-around player in the league. All-around player. Most flashy skilled, McDavid. You could say the exact same thing about Gretzky. Was he the most skilled player in the league at the time? Absolutely. Go look up his stats when he was scoring 8 points, 9 points a game. But Lemieux was the more dominant and the more well-rounded player.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And in many other people's opinions as well. So that's the where I look at those two. I'd link it back another generation before that than I do Crosby Ovechkin.
And to add to McDavid took the most shots in his career last year, and his shooting percentage was only 14%. His career high was 17.
So if he gets 17% while taking more shots, he clears 50 easily.
And he had 44 last year.
Yeah.
So the goals might not be the one that gets it, but I think you're right about the assists. He did have a career high 123 assists last year.
No, he didn't.
Oh, sorry, 123 points.
Yes.
But also 79 was the higher career assists.
Yes. Yeah, that's more likely. And dude,
and assists.
Could he do 50 and 100? Maybe, man. Maybe he can. Especially on that power play. Like, that's the thing, too. Keep in mind, like, one of my favorite stat that I anytime I can talk about it, I can. At 5-on-5, he scored the exact same amount of points as Michael Bunting did. Right? Imagine his 5-on-5 numbers improve now that he has an actual player with him like Evander Kane. Now he's going to be up there instead of getting, was it 56, maybe 58 points at 5-on-5? Now we're looking at a guy who can get you 70, 80 points at 5-on-5 because he actually has a partner next to him who can work with him and is just as good and just as dominant. So that's another reason why as well and I completely forgot to bring that point up, but his 5-on-5 numbers aren't as high as they should be. For how good he is, not nearly as high as they should be. He's tied with Michael Bunting, for Pete's sake. Love bunts, but like, dog, you gotta be right. You gotta be at the top of that list. And to get to that top of the list, you have to be up in the 70 to 75. So if he gets there, and that's an extra 20 points at 5-on-5, I mean, that's not that far off. Now you just got to make up 7 points somewhere else, and you've hit 150 from your last year's totals. I think it's possible, man. I think it's possible. It's bold, but it's possible. All right, that will do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, leave us a like and a comment down on YouTube. Let us know your thoughts on the final team down below. And what's your league-wide bold prediction? Don't tell us your Leafs prediction, because tomorrow Dave and I will be hopping on the pod for what'll be the Leafs season opener. We're going to be teeing up the game against the Montreal Canadiens, going through our season overs, unders, and then also giving our bold Leafs prediction as well. So don't give us that one. Wait for tomorrow's episode. Check back here for it to get that. But let us know down below a league-wide prediction you got. All right, that does it for us. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. Enjoy opening day of the NHL. A couple of games tonight to watch. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.